Okay, get ready, because today we're diving deep into something pretty amazing, the miracle of life. Human reproduction. No matter who you are or where you are in life, this topic touches everyone in some way. To be honest, I'm already fascinated and a little overwhelmed by all of it, so let's bring in our expert to help us break down this wild journey from a single cell to a whole human. So, what's the big picture here? How can we even begin to wrap our heads around this whole complex process?
Well, picture this. Two systems, each totally unique and intricate, working together in perfect sync to create something pretty remarkable, a new human being.
It's mind-blowing. Okay, so we know it all comes down to the male and female reproductive systems, but where do we even start?
How about with the blueprint of who we are, our chromosomes? Each cell in your body typically carries 23 pairs of these little structures, and one of those pairs determines our sex.
The famous X and Y chromosomes, right?
You got it. Females have 2 X's, while males have 1 X and 1 Y. And here's where the story of reproduction really kicks off. That sperm cell carrying either an X or a Y chromosome is what determines if a baby will be male or female.
It's amazing how much rides on that one tiny chromosome. Speaking of sperm, what about those sperm factories? The research you sent mentioned something crazy, like millions of sperm being made every day. Is that even possible?
Millions, absolutely. It's a numbers game, and the male body is incredibly efficient at producing those tiny swimmers. It all happens in the testes, which, fun fact, can be a few degrees cooler than the rest of the body to do their job.
Makes sense why they're located outside the body.
Exactly. Inside the testes, we have these tightly coiled tubes, the seminiferous tubules. That's where the magic of spermatogenesis takes place. Imagine a production line, starting with stem cells called spermatogonia. These cells go through a series of transformations, eventually becoming those powerful little swimmers we call sperm.
So it's like this carefully choreographed biological dance from stem cell to super swimmer. I imagine something has to be directing this intricate dance, right? What controls this whole process?
You're right, and like any good dance, this one needs a choreographer. This whole production wouldn't happen without a team of hormones working behind the scenes. We've got FSH, or follicle-stimulating hormone, which gets sperm production going. And then there's the big one, the hormone we all know, testosterone.
Testosterone. The hormone we often associate with, well, muscles and all things manly.
That's right. And while it does play a role in those areas, testosterone is absolutely crucial for sperm production. Think of it as the conductor of the orchestra, making sure everything runs smoothly.
I love that analogy. Okay, so we have millions of these swimmers being produced daily. What happens next? They don't just hang out in the testes forever, do they?
Definitely not. From the testes, the sperm set out on a pretty remarkable journey. Their first stop is the epididymis, a long coiled tube where they mature and, importantly, learn how to swim.
It's like boot camp for sperm.
I like that. They spend about 3 weeks traveling the length of the epididymis, which, if you stretched it out, would be about 18 feet long.
Wow. That's quite a journey for something so tiny. So they're all trained up, ready to go. What happens when it's, go time?
Okay, so during ejaculation, the sperm are propelled from the epididymis through a muscular tube called the vas deferens.
Okay, I'm picturing those anatomy charts now.
You got it. The vas deferens carries the sperm upward into the abdomen, where it eventually joins with the ejaculatory duct, which then leads to the urethra.
And the urethra, in all its multitasking glory, is responsible for releasing both urine and
semen. Which brings us to something a lot of people get wrong. See, many people think semen is mostly made up of sperm.
Right. I always thought it was just the fluid that carried the sperm.
That's a common myth. Semen is actually more like a complex cocktail. It's carefully crafted by several different glands along the sperm's pathway.
A cocktail, you say? Tell me more about this potent concoction.
Okay, so the first key ingredient comes from the seminal vesicles, which contribute about 60% the semen's volume. Their main job, providing fructose.
Wait, like the sugar? We're giving these little swimmers an energy drink.
You got it. The seminal vesicles provide that much-needed energy boost for the sperm's big journey. They also add fibrinogen, which helps the semen to clot.
So we've got the fuel and something to keep things together. What else goes into this potent mix?
Next up, we have the prostate gland. It's a walnut-sized gland surrounding the urethra, and it contributes about 30% of the semen's volume. The prostate adds substances that are vital for sperm survival and navigation within the female reproductive tract. We're talking citric acid for more energy, calcium, and a variety of enzymes.
Wow, it really is like a carefully formulated survival kit for those little swimmers.
Exactly. And last but not least, we have the bulbar ethral glands. They're small but mighty so. They secrete a lubricating fluid that helps ensure a, shall we say, smooth journey.
Okay, got it. Smoothness is good.
For sure. These glands also contribute fibrinolysin, which helps to liquefy the semen after a little bit, allowing the sperm to swim more freely towards their final destination.
Fascinating. It's not just about getting the sperm there, it's about giving them the best possible environment to survive. To think all this complex chemistry happens in an average ejaculation volume of just 2 to 5 milliliters.
It's true. And in that tiny amount, you've got something like 50 to 100 million sperm per milliliter. Talk about strength in numbers.
That's a mind-blowing amount of activity packed into such a small amount of fluid.
It really shows the power and efficiency of the male reproductive system.
It certainly does. I think we've explored the male side pretty thoroughly. Now, let's move on to the female reproductive system, which is even more complex.
I would say that's accurate. The female reproductive system is truly incredible. It has its own fascinating structures, hormones, and processes.
Well, then lead the way. What are we looking at when we talk about the female anatomy?
A good place to begin is with the external genitalia, what we call the vulva. I think it's important to talk about this openly because there's so much mystery, even misinformation surrounding it.
It's true. There's a lot of shame and confusion out there, which is a shame. Knowledge is power, right?
Absolutely. Understanding our bodies is so important. So let's break it down. We have the labia majora, the outer lips, which basically act as a protective barrier for the more delicate parts inside. And then we have the labia minora, the inner lips, which have a lot of blood vessels and nerve endings.
Got it. Labia majora and labia minora. What else are we looking at here?
Well, there's the clitoris, which, contrary to what some people think, is not just a tiny button. It actually extends internally, kind of like an iceberg, with only the tip visible from the outside.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And then, of course, we have the vaginal opening. It's important to note that it's separate from the urethral opening, which is where urine comes out.
Right, good distinction. And speaking of the urethra, our research mentioned that UTIs are more common in women. Does that have something to do with the anatomy we're talking about?
Good catch. You see, because the urethra is positioned so close to the anus, bacteria from that area can sometimes get into the urethra, and that can lead to a UTI.
So good hygiene is really important. Okay, so beyond those external structures, what's going on inside?
Inside, we have the vagina, a muscular tube that connects the vulva to the uterus. The vagina is amazing because it's so incredibly elastic. It's designed to accommodate everything from, well, a tampon to a baby.
Talk about versatile.
Right. It's incredible. So the vagina is involved in sexual intercourse, childbirth, and it's also the passageway for menstrual fluid.
Which brings us to the uterus, another key player in all this.
Exactly. The uterus, or the womb, is that pear-shaped organ where a fertilized egg implants and grows. It has a thick, muscular wall called the myometrium. That's the part you hear about during labor.
Right, those powerful contractions.
Exactly. And inside that muscular wall is the endometrium, the lining of the uterus, which actually goes through these amazing transformations throughout the menstrual cycle.
The menstrual cycle, a topic that causes a lot of confusion and, let's be honest, dread for some.
I get it, but it's actually a really amazing process. Basically, it's all about getting the uterus ready for a potential pregnancy each month. And it's all driven by a very complex dance of hormones.
Okay, so let's break it down then. We've got the ovaries, which produce eggs, but they also have a hand in this hormone production, right?
You got it. The ovaries produce estrogen and progesterone, which are key hormones involved in the menstrual cycle. And here's something really cool. Unlike men, who make sperm their whole lives, women are born with all the eggs they'll ever have.
Wait, really? All our eggs are there from the beginning. That's amazing. So how does it work? How do these eggs develop? And what about ovulation?
So each egg actually starts its journey inside a tiny structure called a follicle. These follicles hang out in the ovaries and mature under the guidance of, you guessed it, hormones.
Hormones, always running the show.
Right. So at the beginning of the menstrual cycle, which we mark as day 1, estrogen and progesterone levels are pretty low. This is a signal to the brain to release a hormone called follicle-stimulating hormone, or FSH.
So FSH is like the wake-up call telling those follicles to start growing.
Exactly. And as these follicles grow, they start to produce more and more estrogen. And estrogen's got a job to do in the uterus.
Estrogen, the hormone we often connect with, well, being female.
Right, it's involved in a lot of different bodily functions. But in this case, it's busy thickening the lining of the uterus, getting it ready for a potential pregnancy.
So the uterus is prepping for a guest, the follicles are growing. What's the next act in all of this?
As those estrogen levels keep rising, they trigger this surge in another important hormone, luteinizing hormone, or LH. You can think of LH as the green light for ovulation.
LH, the ovulation trigger.
Exactly. That surge of LH basically tells the most mature follicle, okay, it's go time, release your egg. And that release is what we call ovulation.
It's incredible how this whole symphony of hormones plays out every single month. So the egg is released, and then it just kind of waits around, hoping to meet its match.
It's not exactly waiting around. It's swept into the fallopian tube, which connects the ovary to the uterus. And remember those millions of sperm we talked about? Well, if they're around, that's when they start their epic swim upstream, traveling up through the vagina, through the cervix, and into the fallopian tubes. It's a race to see who can reach that egg first.
Wow, it's a real race against time. But if they don't connect, that's when menstruation happens, right? The lining of the uterus sheds, and then the whole cycle starts all over again.
Exactly. The menstrual cycle is this incredible loop, always preparing for the possibility of a pregnancy.
So every month, this incredible journey unfolds. But what happens when a sperm actually makes it to the egg? What are the chances of that even happening?
Well, you said it. It's a numbers game. Millions of sperm start out on this journey, but only one will actually be successful. The chances of a single sperm fertilizing an egg are, well, pretty slim.
It really makes you appreciate the miracle of life, doesn't it? So talk to me about that moment of truth. What happens during fertilization?
So picture this. The sperm, after that long journey, finally reaches the egg. But it can't just get in that easily. The sperm actually has to break through the egg's outer layer, which is no small feat. And once one sperm makes it through, the egg changes its surface to keep any other sperm from getting in.
Wow, so it's like the egg puts up a do not disturb sign. Okay, so the egg and sperm have merged. Then what?
At that point, their genetic material combines, creating a single cell called a zygote. And that single cell with genetic information from both parents is the very beginning of a new human being.
It's mind-blowing to think about something as complex as a human starts from a single cell.
It's pretty remarkable, right? And that zygote doesn't just sit there. It starts another journey, traveling down the fallopian tube towards the uterus. And as it travels, it starts dividing. One cell becomes two become four, and so on.
It's like a microscopic explosion of life. So the zygote is dividing, moving towards the uterus. What happens when it gets there?
Well, if everything goes smoothly, that zygote, now a cluster of cells called a blastocyst, will implant itself into the lining of the uterus. That implantation is a really important step because it allows the developing embryo to get nutrients and oxygen from the mother's bloodstream, all through the placenta, which starts forming pretty soon after implantation.
The placenta, that incredible organ that connects the mother and baby throughout the pregnancy. But I know things don't always go as planned. What happens when the zygote doesn't implant in the uterus?
You're right. Not all pregnancies are straightforward. For example, there's something called an ectopic pregnancy, where the fertilized egg implants outside of the uterus. This often happens in the fallopian tube.
That sounds really dangerous.
It can be. Ectopic pregnancies are serious and need immediate medical attention. It's a reminder that while the whole process of human reproduction is incredible, it can also be pretty fragile.
That's for sure. Makes you realize how important it is to understand our bodies.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power.
Well, this has been an amazing journey. We've gone from sperm and eggs all the way to the formation of a zygote.
And we've only scratched the surface. There's so much more to learn about human reproduction. It's fascinating.
It really is. To our listeners, thank you for joining us on this incredible deep dive. We're always blown away by your curiosity. We hope you've learned something new about the amazing biology that makes life possible. Until next time, keep those curious minds engaged, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.